everyone, it's Miss Joyce. Today I'll be rewriting remainders as decimals. Ibrahina, Nicole, Kim, and Michaela had a lemonade stand. They made $50. If they split the money evenly, how much money does each person get? First, let's write the equation. The girls are making a total of $50 and they're splitting it evenly between 1, 2, 3, 4 people. So we can know that we're going to be dividing 50 divided by 4. Let's go ahead and set this up using the standard algorithm. 50 is our dividend, so that's going to go on the inside. Our divisor 4 is going to go on the outside. Let's list our multiples of our divisor 4 to help us divide. We have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36. So let's share the biggest place value first. In this number, it's the tens place. There are 5 tens. If we look at the multiples of 4, we're trying to find the closest multiple to 5 without going over. We can see that the first multiple of 4 gets us closest to 5 without going over. So since this is the first multiple, we're going to put a 1 in our quotient in the tens place. So 1 times 4 is 4, so we'll be subtracting 5 tenths minus the 4 tenths we're going to share to get 1 10 left over. We can rewrite this 110 as ones by bringing down the next digit, the 0, to create 10 ones. Again, let's look at our multiples of 4 to see which multiple gets us closest to 10 without going over. That would be the second multiple, which is 8. So since 8 is the second multiple of 4, we're going to put a 2 up here in the ones place. 2 ones in each group times 4 groups gets us 8 ones shared. When we subtract 10 minus 8, we get 2 left over. There are no other digits to bring down, so we've been using this as a remainder 2. But if you think about the question, it says how much money does each person get? Well, how can we give each person $12 remainder 2? We want to split this $2 into cents. So what we can do is place a decimal right here next to the ones place and put a 0 in the tenths place. Remember, there was nothing in the tenths place, which means there's 0 tenths, which is why we're putting a 0 here. Since we put a decimal point in between the ones and the tenths place in our dividend, we need to do the same up here in our quotient. So we're putting a decimal point here. Now we have a digit that we can bring down. So let's bring down that 0 to rewrite this as 20 tenths. So let's look at our multiples to see which multiple gets us closest to 20 without going over. Well, that would be the fifth multiple gets us exactly 20. So since this is the fifth multiple, we're going to put a 5 up here in the tenths place. 5 tenths per group times 4 groups gets us 20 tenths shared. When we subtract 20 minus 20, we get 0 left over. Now that we're at 0, we can be done dividing. If we look at our quotient, we see 12 and 5 tenths. When we talk about money, a lot of the times we go to the hundredths place because we usually talk about it out of 100 cents and a dollar. So to answer the question, how much money does each person get? Each friend is going to get $12.50. Let's try another problem. Here we have Nathaniel has 9 gallons of soup. He pours them into 4 pots. How many gallons go in each pot? Let's start by writing the equation. We have a total of 9 gallons of soup split between 4 pots evenly, so we're going to divide 9 divided by 4. If we use the standard algorithm, we can place the 9 on the inside since that's our dividend, and a 4 on the outside since that's our divisor. We can list those multiples of 4 again since 4 is our divisor. We have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, and 36. So let's go ahead and look at our multiples. Which multiple gets us closest to 9 without going over? Well, that would be the second multiple, which gets us to 8. So since 8 is the second multiple, we're going to place a 2 up here in the ones place. 2 times 4 gets us that 8. So we have 9 gallons. we're going to share 8 gallons to get 1 gallon left over. So this could be a remainder 1, but we could rewrite this as a decimal. So what we're going to do is we're going to place a decimal point in between the ones and the tenths place. Since there's nothing in the tenths place, we're going to place a 0. Just like we put a decimal point in between the ones and the tenths place in our dividend, we're going to do the same in our quotient. So now let's go ahead and bring down the tenths place, which is that 0. We rewrote this as 10 tenths. Let's go ahead and look to see which multiple gets us closest to 10 without going over. That would be our second multiple, which is 8. So since 8 is our second multiple, we're going to place a 2 up here in the tenths place. 2 tenths times 4 groups gets us 8 tenths that we're subtracting. We know that 10 minus 8 is 2. We still have a remainder. So we're going to repeat that step. We're going to have in the hundredths place, there's nothing there, so we can place a 0. Now we can bring down the 0 that's in the hundredths place to rewrite 2 tenths as 20 hundredths. So we have 20 hundredths here. Let's look at our multiples to see which multiple gets us closest to 20 without going over. That would be our fifth multiple, gets us exactly 20. So up here in the hundredths place, in our quotient, we're going to put 5. 5 times 4 gets us exactly 20. When we subtract 20 minus 20, we get 0 left over. So now we have 0 gallons of soup left over. We are done dividing. So let's answer the question. How many gallons go in each pot? We can see that 2 and 25/100 gallons go in each pot. Finally, let's do this last problem. Sarah says that 14 divided by 4 equals 26 divided by 8 because the answers are both going to be 3 remainder 2. Show her mistake using decimal division. Well, both of these answers do equal 3 remainder 2. But if we were to keep dividing using decimals, let's see if we would get the same answer. On the left side, let's do 14 divided by 4. Inside of our division symbol, we're going to put the dividend 14 and 4 on the outside. We're first going to share our biggest place value, which is the tens place. There's 1 10. Well, if we look at our multiples, we know that there are no multiples that get us closest to 1 without going over. So we're going to place a 0 up here in the tens place. 0 times 4 gets us 0. So we have 1 10. We're going to share a total of 0 of them. So when we subtract, we still have 1 10 left over. We can rewrite this as ones by bringing down the next digit, the 4. So we have 14 ones. Now let's think of our multiples of 4. We could multiply 4 times 3 to get us closest to 14 without going over. So 3 times 4 is 12. So we can subtract 14 minus 12 to get 2 left over. So here we can see our quotient is 3 remainder 2. But we're going to represent this using decimal division. So let's place a decimal or a 0 in the tenths place and a decimal in between the ones in the tenths place. If we bring down this next digit, the 0, we can rewrite 2 ones as 20 tenths. Well, we know that we could multiply 4 times 5 to get us 20. So 5 tenths times 4 groups gets us 20 tenths that we're going to subtract. 20 minus 20 is 0 tenths left over. So we have 0 left over. We are done dividing. So the quotient to 14 divided by 4 can be 3 and 5 tenths. Let's do the same to 26 divided by 8 to see if we get the same answer. Inside our division symbol, we're going to put 26, and the outside, we're going to put 8. Let's first share that biggest place value, the tens place. There are 2 tens. Well, that first multiple of 8 is already 8. That's too big. We don't have 8 tens to share. So we're going to place a 0 in the tens place, showing we're going to give each group 0 tens. 0 times 8 is 0. So we have 2 tens. We're sharing 0 of them, which means we have 2 tens left over. We can rewrite this as ones by bringing down the next digit, the 6. So we have 26 ones. Let's think, what can we multiply by 8 to get closest to 26 without going over? Well, 8 times 3 gets us closest to 26. 3 times 8 is 24. So when we subtract 26 minus 24, we get 2 ones left over. So this is where we're getting 3 remainder 2. But same as the first problem, we're going to rewrite this as a decimal. So we can place a 0 in that tenths place and put a decimal between the ones and the tenths place. Let's bring down that 0 to rewrite 2 ones as 20 tenths. Let's see, what can we multiply by 8 to get closest to 20 without going over? That would be 2 tenths. 2 times 8 gets us 16. So when we subtract, we have 20 tenths. We're sharing 16 of them. We have 4 tenths left over. Oh, we still have a remainder here. So we need to bring down the next digit. Since there's nothing in the hundredths place, we can place a 0 there. So we can now bring down that 0 to rewrite 4 tenths as 40 hundredths. Let's think, what can we multiply by 8 to get closest to 40 without going over? Oh, well, 8 times 5 gets us exactly 40. So we can place a 5 in that hundredths place. 5 hundredths times 8 groups gets us 40 hundredths. When we subtract the 40 hundredths we have minus the 40 hundredths we're sharing, we have 0 hundredths left over. Since we're at 0, we are done dividing. We can see 26 divided by 8 is 3 and 25 hundredths. So we can see that even though both of these equations have 3 remainder 2, both answers, when divided, get us 2 different decimals, 3 and 5 tenths and 3 and 25 hundredths.